Okay, everybody, I'm back for another interview this morning at the Aerospace and Defense Supplier Summit in Seattle. And I have a little bit of a different situation here today. Change the topic up on you a little bit. We're not going to be talking about a technical aspect of it. We're going to be talking about more of a business, aspect of this today. I have two guests with me today. I'm going to introduce them to you, and I hope that you enjoy this conversation that we're going to have. Let's start over here. Could you tell everybody watching today who you are and what do you do?
I'm the Economic Development Director with the town of Clayton. We're just outside of Raleigh, but I've spent previously about 15 years in aerospace and was born and raised in Seattle, so I have kind of aviation and aerospace in my blood.
Fantastic. And it's economic development in North Carolina.
Correct.
And what is the city again?
It's the town of Clayton, and we're about 20 minutes outside of Raleigh.
Nearby Raleigh. Okay, excellent. And could you also tell them who you are? What do you do?
Sure thing. I'm Chris Johnson. I'm the economic developer for Johnston County, home of the town of Clayton. We're part of the Raleigh MSA, the fastest growing county in the state of North Carolina, and projected to be probably about the fifth largest county within the next 10 to 12 years. So we're excited about being here.
Great, good. Well, listen, the reason I wanted to have these gentlemen on the interview schedule here today is because I thought you might find it interesting. Is that we're all challenged with a lot of different things in the industry today, things like supply chain problems and labor shortages, and really how do we grow the industry really that we're in. And I thought it was really an interesting conversation I had with these guys yesterday about what they're doing to address that within the economy that we're in today. And so maybe I could start out with you and say, can you just explain in your own perspective, from maybe an aviation perspective, is that what does it mean about economic development? When you say I'm in economic development, tell people what you're really trying to accomplish.
So economic development, in aviation, we've got such a long history in North Carolina with the Wright brothers. And really the recent announcements that we've had in this growing industry, Boom Supersonic in the Greensboro area has announced that they're going to be building their supersonic aircraft there, which is fantastic. The Global Trans Park that we're here, that's part of our region, has got Spirit and many other suppliers around there as well. You've got Honda Jet that's built in the state. You've got Pratt & Whitney. You've got GE. So those are great jobs. What I've seen here in my experience here is that really gave opportunity for folks not only with four-year degrees, but manufacturing, and really to work up through the trade and really build, the American dream, if you will, and having a good sustainable job that you can really feed a family. And that's what we want to develop, and that's what we want to continue to grow. So that's
interesting. Interesting. Well, would you consider that to be a hub of what kind of activity? You just described a bunch of aviation companies. Is that a hub like up in the Pacific Northwest where it's really a concentration of
absolutely
aviation aerospace
so there's
suppliers?
250 there's about 250 companies statewide there. You've got thousands of employees in that. So really I think it's really across from OEM down to the supply chain. So there's a lot of different opportunities there. And what I think is interesting is you've got all the research universities. You've got Duke and UNC and NC State. So those really give this tech hub in the Raleigh area here. And then you've got the manufacturing, both in biopharma and aerospace, that's really throughout the state. So you really have that great connection there between those OEMs and the manufacturing and the technology, and where those all come together. That's why you've seen a lot in electric vehicles and battery technology announcements as well. So it's
great.
A really good opportunity.
Well, good.
There.
Well, let me shift the conversation over here for a second and ask, is it what makes this kind of a situation unique? If you're looking at this from a economic development standpoint, you're trying to get and attract new companies and businesses to come into this region. What makes this really unique for you?
Well, the Global Trans Park is probably one of the largest or longest runways on the East Coast, definitely on the East Coast, if not the United States. Well over 11,500 feet, if I'm not mistaken. There's over 2,000 or 3,000 acres of undeveloped land. 500 of it is certified. So the opportunity for companies to relocate to the area. Patrick mentioned about the close proximity to Boom and Honda Jet and all the other companies in North Carolina, but we're only about 3 hours away from North Charleston with the Boeing facility down there. So we're really kind of at the center of the aviation economic wheel, and we feel like we've got a great opportunity. Obviously, in the discussions that I've had with site consultants, the number one thing is talent, and with 5 military installations located within about 35 to 45 minutes away from any of our locations. We have about 15 to 18,000 military personnel transitioning out of the military service annually. So we're, are trying to be well connected with the military and developing that pipeline for future industries considering the area.
Yeah, that's I think that's really an important aspect of it, because if we look at the marketplace today, when I go around and talk to different companies, they say one of the big challenges they have is really the availability of labor. And so if I was considering, should I, develop capabilities in a particular region in North Carolina, for example, I'd be saying, what's the labor pool?
Right.
And you described a bunch of aviation aerospace companies that are around that area, and we know people move around, to different companies. And you described, you said how many military installations?
There's 5 military installations.
5?
There's Seymour Johnson, Cherry Point, Pope Air Force Base, Camp Lejeune,
Fort Bragg.
Fort Bragg, one of the largest military installations in the United States.
And a lot of the companies that I work with, they have different strategies. Like, for example, they might take people out of college and run them in through, technical training universities that they have partnerships with. But also, we see a lot of military personnel, coming out and going into these kind of developments.
Right, and also with the diversity targets for many of our companies. I mean, we've got several major historical black colleges in North Carolina with North Carolina A&T, North Carolina Central, Elizabeth City State University, Federal State. So we're very well connected and very diverse economy there in North Carolina.
Now, what are some of the financial or economic benefits, to a company that might come into a region like this?
Well, our state has been very aggressive, and with the desire to reduce the corporate income tax down to zero within by 2030. And so we've got a great quality of life. We've got great labor. We've got inexpensive land, and of course the attractiveness of lowering the income tax for corporation hopefully is puts us on a direct path for success.
Good, excellent.
Go
ahead.
I'd say I think 2 things I'd add is North Carolina, does give the opportunity for the local governments to be able to have incentives as well, which is something that not every location has, which is fantastic. And I would be remiss if we didn't mention the community college system, because all of our counties have got a strong commitment to the community college system, and that really being a pipeline. And I think if you see what the different programs that have been stood up around different industries to support it, that community college system is a huge asset to getting that trained labor.
And that's the training existing workforce, and as well as developing new workforce coming into the talent pipeline, but also the retraining, the reskilling, because obviously we all know that our industries are constantly changing, and so it's a great resource that's available to all of our industries.
Good. Hey, what kind of companies might you see considering this kind of an opportunity?
If you see the announcements, they're really across the board. It's OEMs, it's tier 1, it's tier 2, it's tier 3 suppliers. Really anyone that's in that supply chain. And I think that what's interesting too is with biopharma, with automotive, and with aviation and aerospace all in North Carolina, that ability to tap that labor pool and that talent across the board, I think is something that's unique there.
Non-woven textiles at NC State is obviously growing. We've got a long history there, so it's a great fit for any company.
And with Toyota announcing their battery facility in North Carolina as well, you've got an opportunity there as aviation and the electronic vertical takeoff and landing, all of those sorts of opportunities. The battery technology being there and having that as things are going electric, I think is a really unique thing about North Carolina as well.
Very good, very good. Well, I think you've described a lot of really interesting things and reasons why people should consider this kind of situation. But let me give you one last chance. Is that if you were speaking to people that were considering where they should move their business to, or grow their business, or expand it, what would be the unique selling point that you would tell people?
We've got talent. We've got availability of land. We've got a very pro-business government. I refer to it as green tape, not red tape. Speed to market is critical for all of our industries, regardless of which sector you're in. So a lot of times it's the pro-business aspect that I think we can deliver, and we talk about it, but we deliver on it.
Great. Thank you. I appreciate you sharing that. And from your perspective, if I looked at it maybe from an aviation aerospace perspective, what's the unique selling point to aviation aerospace companies that are saying we'd like to consider moving into this?
Well, I think proximity. If you think of where we're at, having proximity to the Northeast, being sat there, also to the Southeast, Alabama, Charleston, everything going on there, and then our own companies there, that location is really important. And then you cannot, I think, underscore the quality of place and the quality of life piece that North Carolina offers. Born and raised in Seattle, I can tell you having some sunshine and seasons and the water is fantastic, and not something you find everywhere. So 6 months of gray can kind of get you down in some places. So I think it's a really important
Awesome. Gentlemen, thank you. I
Thank
appreciate
you.
you sharing
Appreciate
this valuable information. For those of you watching, I know that mostly we've been talking about, technical interviews, but when I spoke with these guys, I thought that they really had a great message. And so if you're a company that's considering, where do we need to maybe grow our next location or our next business, or maybe where do we need to move to? Sounds like there's, a lot of concentration in aviation aerospace within these areas. Let me ask you this, who's the right person to reach out to? How does someone get in touch with you if they're interested in continuing this conversation?
Well, the best place for me locally is probably just go with Grow with Joco. That's growwithjoco.com. And I'll be more than happy to connect you. Obviously, I'm a big regional guy. I'll be more than happy to connect you with the people at the Global Trans Park, individuals in the state of North Carolina with the EDPNC. So just feel free to give me a call, and I can give you the direct.
Are you on LinkedIn?
And I'm also on LinkedIn.
Okay.
That's
and so tell them very specifically what your name is and how they can reach out to you on LinkedIn.
Sure thing. It's Chris Johnson, ChrisJohnson. But I work for Johnston with the T, so it gets a little confusing. But
Chris Johnson on LinkedIn.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Okay. How about you tell them your LinkedIn real quick so they could maybe reach out to you as well?
Patrick Pierce at the town of Clayton, Clayton, North Carolina. You should be able to find me there.
Okay. And how's Pierce spelled?
Pierce.
Okay, great. Perfect. All right.
Yes.
Gentlemen, thank you so much. I really appreciate you taking the time to
Thank
share
you
this
so much.
message with people. We're going to be having more interviews today. Please join us as we continue throughout the day of sharing more valuable information. Have a great day. Bye.